Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Cookie Jar. Today we're working on the 6th recipe from Cherry Cheesecake Murder. It is called the Mock Turtle Cookies. This page, these 2 pages, and these 2 pages. So a lot to cover. That's like 4 or 5 pages, so there is a lot to go through. They do have the recipe ingredients split into 2 sections, one for the turtle cookies and one for the chocolate glaze. In total, you're going to want 1.5 sticks of chilled butter, 3/4 of a cup, 2 cups of flour, 3/4 cup powdered sugar, confectioner sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, half a cup chocolate chips. I used Ghirardelli's semi-sweet, 1 egg beaten, approximately 3 dozen Kraft caramels, the soft kind that's individually wrapped. They're about 1/2 inch square. I got 3 dozen out of 1 bag, and it had like 3 extra, maybe 4. So it says the first thing, so do not preheat oven, dough must chill before baking. After that, the next thing is Hannah's note. You can also do this in a food processor with the steel blade, the same way you'd mix pie crust. It's a lot easier that way. It mentions that they need to freeze them for an hour or overnight until firm. Then you're gonna cut them up, put a caramel in the center. It does note, be careful not to press all the way to the bottom. If the dough is still too cold to press in the caramels, let it warm up a bit before and try again. The last note for this part is when you take them out, you put them over waxed foil or aluminum foil or wax paper. I use extra wide foil because it's easy to crimp up the edges and make into a disposable drip pan. Never heard of that before. Extra wide foil. Interesting. Okay, so chocolate glaze. 1/3 cup water, 1/3 cup light corn syrup. I used Caro. 1 cup white granulated sugar, 1 1/3 cup milk chocolate chips, 8 ounces. I used Ghirardelli's, and approximately 6 dozen pecan halves. So, it wants to note when you're making the chocolate sauce, stirring constantly, 2 places, big letters. It notes when you pour the glaze over the cookies. You can also pour it over the cookies, but it's a little harder to do than taking a spoon and drizzling it. Lisa's note, when I'm in a hurry and don't have time to glaze the cookies, I just sprinkle them with a little powdered sugar, serve them with chocolate ice cream, and call it a day. Hannah's note, Norman says to warn any friends with temporary feelings that the caramels in the center of these cookies are chewy. I cannot talk today. And then lastly, it says another note, you can store these cookies in a box lined with wax paper in the refrigerator, but take them out at least 30 minutes before you serve them so that the caramel in the center will soften and not break a tooth. Yield approximately 6 dozen very tasty cookies. So let's get in the kitchen and let's get started. This is everything that we will be needing today. First thing it wants us to do is cut our butter into pieces. All right, now we've got our 12 pieces, 12 tablespoons, and just chuck them in the food processor. To this, we are going to add the 2 cups of flour, the 3/4 cup of powdered sugar, and the 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And we're just going to blitz it up until it's all mixed up. It says continue mixing till it's crumbly like pie crust. Now, I decided for the last couple of videos, melting chocolate chips in the microwave has proven not worth my time. So what I do is I have a candy maker, and I put that on a little bit ago and had it melt it all up for me. Now we're just going to pour this into dough mixture. Now these are the semi-sweet portion of the recipe. The milk chocolate chips are for the glaze later. Next, we're adding in the egg. I think we are finally mixed. This might have been one of those recipes where it was easier to do it by hand. I'm not entirely sure this made it easier. Okay, so the next thing it wants is to tear off 4 pieces of wax paper about 1.5 feet long. Probably gonna put that later. All right. See, this part doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't see why you couldn't just spoon out the cookie dough and freeze it. Okay, that took longer than I thought it would. Now we're taking our 4 rolls of cookie dough in a freezer-safe bag and into the freezer for 2 hours. Okay, so the oven's preheating to 325. We are slicing the logs into rounds. By my estimation, with needing the 6 dozen caramels and the 3 dozen, or the 6 dozen caramels and the 3 dozen pecans, you're gonna want about 6 dozen cookies. So you're gonna need about 18 cookies per log. Now, why you couldn't have just scooped out the dough from earlier in a cookie scoop and then like chilled that? I'm not quite sure, because this way is just wildly inaccurate for cookie amounts. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. None of these are going to be the same size. It's only been out of the freezer a couple of minutes and they're already getting gooey. I just don't think this was the smartest way to do this. Especially if it needed to chill. Because this part just seems so that you could slice it easier. That's the only reason it seems like it needed to chill, but if you weren't slicing it, there'd be no wait time. Just my thoughts for this. Which how you're supposed to be able to put a caramel, even a half a caramel, in the center of these without it melting over. I don't see it. I just don't. Okay, so now we've got all these cut. Now it's time to cut the caramels in half. Which it doesn't say lengthwise or widthwise either. I have no idea how to do this. None of this makes sense. Okay, so this is what I think it's supposed to be. I hope that's what it's supposed to be, but that's what I'm gonna do with the rest of them. Okay. 6 more caramels. I do think that because I'm making these all at one time, I am going to try to store the ones I'm not working on in the fridge. Here they are, all 6 dozen, which I think is 72 cookies, all ready to go in the oven. They'll go in at 325 for 15 minutes, and then they cool for a minute, and then they'll go on wire racks. How we are going to do that is we're going to turn the burner onto medium heat. Or is it high? It says high, so high heat. And then we're going to add the 1/3 of a cup of water, the full cup of sugar, as well as the 1/3 of a cup of corn syrup. Now it says to mix this all together, stirring constantly until it boils. Boil it for 15 seconds and then pull it off. Okay, so now it's boiling. We need to wait 15 seconds. Okay, so now it says to remove it from the heat. And now we are going to add in the 1 1/3 of milk chocolate chips. And then it says to push it around until all of the chips are submerged. And then to let that sit for 2.5 minutes. So the next thing it wants to do is to take a whisk or a fork, and I'm using a whisk because I don't want to hurt my hand with a metal fork. It says to mix this until the chocolate is completely melted, but not to whisk in air. I don't really know how you would accomplish not whisking in air. Seems a bit strange, but I'm just going to go with regular whisking and hope that that doesn't add air. Now, it does mention that to spoon it over or to pour it over. I am going to pour it into a Ziploc bag, cut off a tip or a corner, and then just kind of squeeze it over because I think that would be easier. I kind of want to make sure I get a good glob in the center of each one because they will be getting the pecan stuck into them. So I definitely want to make sure I have enough so that the pecan will stick. Let that hang out for a minute by itself. I am going to reserve this just in case the chocolate dries too quick and I don't get all of the pecans embedded. It does say you should have half an hour to do this for it to fully dry. So I'm not too worried about it. I think I might have overcounted on the pecans. I think I counted out 12 dozen instead of 6. Because there's a lot extra in this bowl and I am almost done. That is all of them. It does say to give it half an hour to finish hardening. So, we'll give that then. Here are all of the cookies. They are finally completely done and ready to eat. These are the mock turtle cookies. So. Well, they are really good. The caramel is definitely hard to chew through. It came out all in one lump. I was trying to bite it in half, didn't really work. Now they're called mock turtle cookies. In a way, the turtle is represented in the two ways. With the chocolate, the caramel, and the pecan is usually called a turtle flavor. And the pecan on the back kind of looks like a turtle shell. Both are pretty cool. Now, I definitely think these could have been done a lot easier. One, just scooping them out and then immediately putting the caramels and baking them and then making the chocolate. And like I put it in that piping bag, Ziploc, and then piping bag with it. So much simpler than trying to drizzle it over spoonfuls at a time than the pecans. I think these could have been done a lot faster and a lot more efficient. But overall, they are a tasty cookie. They weren't quick, but they are cute. So it kind of balances out a little bit. Next week, we will be making Jane's mini cherry cheesecakes. Now we made the full cherry cheesecake last week and they were so good. So if these mini ones are even half as good as the big one was, they're definitely gonna be awesome. So if you are interested in seeing that, join us next week. I hope you lovelies have a good one. Bye guys.